Yay Networks.
Hi, Wild Ones. Welcome back to the Wild Rose Podcast. I'm Whitney Rose, and I'm so excited for today's episode. We have the coolest guest. She's the coolest actress in Hollywood. She has, you may have seen her on Netflix, You or Ray Donovan. Today we're talking about Mormonism, mom life, and business. And today's guest is Ambyr Childers. And I'm so excited to have her on. And you can listen to Ambyr's podcast, Happily Ever Ambyr, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, please enjoy my conversation with Ambyr Childers.
I'm laughing only because every time I think of the Mormon Church or I see the word sister, I'm ready to say brother so-and-so, sister so-and-so. Anyways, hi, it's so nice to meet you.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you. You can call me Sister Rose if you want.
You can call me Sister Childers just for this episode. No.
Only for this episode.
I know. So for people who don't know, in the Mormon Church, you say Brother Walton, Sister Childers. And so that's where we're getting that crazy.
Brother and sister. Do you know what's funny? Every time someone says my full name afterwards, and I'm sorry if this gets you in trouble and you have to cut it, but every time someone calls me by my full name, I say by the power of the Melchizedek priesthood, which I do not hold.
Oh my gosh. It's funny. So it has taken me still to this day deprogramming my brain with the way that I pray. I finally got so fed up. So when I went through divorce, I got so fed up saying, "My dear Heavenly Father, I thank thee. I ask thee in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ, amen." And I was like, dude, you're only saying that because it's programmed in you.
Yeah,
and that was my
format.
biggest, it's a format, right? And I was just didn't feel good. So anyways, I want to hear about your life growing up in the Mormon Church, because it's so different. You grew up in Utah, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in Utah. And where did you grow up, Mormon?
I grew up in Marietta, California.
Marietta.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a California Mormon. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
And before I start, I'm curious, how long have you been out of the church?
I've been out of the church since I was 18. So when I moved to New York when I was 17 to do a soap opera, I started going to the singles ward in Manhattan. And I was like, I'm going to go find myself, a little Mormon boy in, Manhattan, and I'm going to be living the dream. I showed up to the singles ward and I was like, oh my God. And I was 17. I was like, these people are 45. It started that much older there. Whereas a singles ward where we grew up, it was fresh off your mission.
Right out of high school, fresh off your mission. Yeah. Very different.
Yeah.
So it's been
a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Me too.
I've been through many churches. I started going to the Catholic church with a boyfriend when I lived in New York. Went to an actor's church out there. Then
what's an actor's church?
Well, it wasn't. It was a Catholic church, but a lot of the Broadway people went there. So it was I just called it the actor's church. And then came back to LA, married a Jew, and I tell people that I'm Jewish. And because I'm raising my children Jewish, and that's pretty much it. And then I found out that I'm part Native American, and I'm now a part of the Choctaw tribe. And so I kind of, through my divorce, I found a new spirituality, and now I'm spiritual, I would say.
Yeah, you're connecting back to your roots of Mother Earth and where it all started, right? Mm-hmm. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was born and raised in the church. I come from a very, very long line of Mormons. So on my mother's side, her parents, so my grandpa and my grandma were both Mormon royalty, Mormon pioneers, came all the way over with Joseph Smith. They founded Pleasant Grove, American Fork, all the towns around where I live. They were all farmland owned by my family, 4 generations deep.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so this is your mother's?
My mother's side.
Okay. So it would be great, 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 great Grandparents.
So 4 generations. So 4 greats, great, great, great,
Got
great
it.
on both sides, the Robinsons and the Roundies. And in Utah, that's a big name. I always joke, like when you walk around the cemeteries, it's like
Yeah.
my family owns the most real estate in the cemeteries here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Wow.
my middle name is Joanna, and I'm named after a Mormon pioneer. She passed away on her way over with Joseph Smith. And so that's a family name that has been given and passed down. So, I mean, I'm very Mormon. However, my mom, she became inactive, I would say. With her first marriage, she married someone who wasn't Mormon, had 2 kids with him, divorced him, moved back to Utah, and met my father, who he was from California. My father's side, it's so funny. I thought we were Germans. Okay, I thought that my descent was German, so I even got a tattoo for my grandparents who've passed on in German. Come to find out that I'm Irish because I did 23andMe and found out that I'm 69% Irish, and my grandparents were Irish immigrants adopted through the foster system by a German family.
Oh my gosh.
So my dad grew up with no religion, nothing, and not really even it's just I throw that in there. I don't know why ADD, but so he was in California. He found the Mormon Church, went on a Mormon mission, and came to Utah, met my mom, and my mom reactivated when she and my dad got married. They decided to go through the temple. But I grew up in a very confusing climate around Mormonism. I was active by choice. I went to church religiously. I was, my maid president, Laurel president, seminary council, all of the things, because that was my safe place away from my home. That was very dysfunctional and abusive.
Yeah.
And so my family would go to church and sit together, but really I was active on my own, right, because it was my community. And when I was 18 years old, I had the opportunity to either go on a senior girls trip with my girlfriends to Hawaii or go on a church history tour that started in Salt Lake City, went all the way up to Palmyra, New York, where Joseph Smith was born, and then all the way back. And I chose the 3-week church history tour.
Why? It's just something that you just felt was the right thing to do.
I was just you know how you're brainwashed to think that if I check off every box and do everything, I'm the most righteous, I'm the most spiritual. I pat myself on the back, and that's where I found my self-worth, by checking off those boxes and doing all those things and having the strongest testimony, having the strong, I was so that girl that got up there every Sunday and bore her testimony. I don't know. I felt
I was not. I was so nervous. And honestly, I feel like if I got up there, I would just start crying because I'm such a crybaby. So as soon as you say it, but kudos to you, because I mean, that was a big deal. There was, I'm sure, I don't know about you, but there was a lot of pressure within the church, going to church and being the good Mormon girl. I think that's what kept me specifically accountable. I wanted to be that good Mormon girl, but I always knew I was like, God, this just feels like there's more to this. And I really think going to New York really opened my eyes to different religions and backgrounds, and seeing the Orthodox go to Central Park. And so I think that was my still small voice telling me, wait a second, full stop. There's more to this.
Yeah, that's so getting to that point, as I got home from this church history tour, I'm 18 now. I move out on my own, and I always had the same feeling, sitting in Sunday school lessons and talking about things. I'm like, that can't be it. Why would we not be inclusive of everyone, or different doctrinal things? I just remember hitting, and I personally felt like this is bullshit. But I found my self-value through this community. Looking back on it, I walked up to that pulpit every Sunday because I was receiving praise and love, and I had a false sense of my self-worth through my ward.
And you probably felt a lot of pressure because of your lineage. Like, that's a huge
Yes, yeah.
responsibility to carry on, what your ancestors did, regardless of what religion you are. I feel like there's innately there's that pressure that we put on
When I
ourselves.
was, like, the first one in my family to not be the fuck up.
Mm.
So I felt that pressure of sorry to cuss, but I, like, felt that pressure of I have to keep this going because everyone in my family has not followed this path that my mom is dreaming of for me. So
Mm.
at 18 though, I changed my mind and I stopped going to church and I drank my first beer, and I remember thinking I was gonna be struck by lightning, and I wasn't. And so then I journeyed out for a little bit, but then I came back and got married in the Mormon temple at 19 and divorced by 21. And then that is when I officially left.
This episode is sponsored by EveryPlate.
I'm so excited for the new year, which means it is time to set new goals, and eating healthy is definitely a top priority for me and my family this year. But it can be so hard with our busy schedule and lifestyle with work and my kids' soccer schedule. It feels like we are constantly on the go. But one thing that I really want to get back to is cooking. I really miss the days when I had time to prepare home cooked meals that were healthy and yummy. And I found EveryPlate, and it is amazing because the recipes are yummy, they're super easy and quick to make, and it's super affordable. So I feel like I'm saving my family money, and we are getting those healthy meals, and my kids love them. They're so yummy. Their meals are cheaper than your average fast casual meal, so ditch the takeout to save money while still enjoying fresh, satisfying meals. They're the easiest way to eat affordably. EveryPlate provides plenty of delicious variety with more than 25 tasty and affordable recipes that change every week. So it's easy to find something flavorful and satisfying for every meal of the day. Get a meal for $1.49 plus $1 steaks for life by going to everyplate.com/podcast and entering code 49wildrose. Subscription must be active to qualify and redeem $1 steak. Get started with EveryPlate for just $1.49 per meal plus $1 steaks for life by going to everyplate.com/podcast and entering code 49wildrose. Subscription must be active to qualify and redeem $1 steak. That's up to $110 value. That's everyplate.com/podcast. Use code 49wildrose. When I went to the temple, I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that again.
When you went through and got married in the temple?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I didn't have that experience, and there's so many crazy things that I've heard about that. We don't need to get into it. It's, like, not relevant, but they're, like, all online and,
yeah, it was enough to say I'm done. I for sure don't believe in this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even baptisms for the dead, which I did at the San Diego temple all the time, like, I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna go to this beautiful building," 'cause there really are beautiful,
Gorgeous, yeah.
gorgeous buildings, and, like, when you walk in, it doesn't matter what religion you are. There's something special for me, when I walk into a holy place, whether I'm going to the synagogue with my kids or I'm going it doesn't matter where, like
I love that you said that because I felt the same. Had an opportunity to go to Thailand, and going to like the Thai temples, the Buddhist temples. I felt that same sense of like glory, except for I felt more grounded. Like I felt like I belonged, like I could just sit down and be me.
Mhm, mhm. It's like really getting back to yourself and your foundation and your inner child, and that's what I love. I love all I'm not religious, and I probably will never end up in a religious church, but if someone invites me to church, 100%, I'm gonna say, "Absolutely." Like, I love learning about how other people practice, and there might be a message that I need to hear that day that the preacher or the bishop or whoever it is talks about. So, I don't know, I just really appreciate it. So you left at 19?
Yeah, officially done, walked away by 21, but
21.
19, I that's when I was out. But then I landed myself in a situation where now I'm eternally tied to someone. and had to figure out a path out of it. And, it came at the cost of my family. It was hard for my mom, my siblings, to really accept the fact that that was the path I was taking. And honestly, I just started the path of kind of like what you did. I started going to like non-denominational churches, and I loved how irreverent the music was because, in the Mormon Church, it's so
And we could probably both do it at the same
time. It's like doomsday.
Yeah.
And I remember going, I'm like, there's a rock band and there's coffee. And I'm like, this is how it should be. Music moves people. I was bawling, and I started taking, I never went consistently, but I just dove more into like understanding universal laws, spirituality. I started meditating, doing a lot of yoga, just connecting with myself. And then I realized, wow, I am connected to something, but it doesn't need to be the Mormon male god that I knew what it was.
And I
thought
think
it was.
Yeah, and I think that's where, for me, my outlook is where I think a lot of people get confused is, some people really need religion in their life to give them a purpose and structure. But once you kind of get quiet with yourself, it's you really only you need yourself. Like everything you need is right here in this body. Like you don't have to cling on, and whether it's alcohol or drugs or social media or a bad relationship or whatever it is, it's like we just have to really turn inward.
Yeah.
Now. So,
and it's hard. I don't know if you found this, but I had to like learn how to do that because I was always taught to rely on reading my scriptures, bearing my testimony, praying the certain way. I had to really learn and discover that. And people always ask me how I did it. And I'm like, I don't know. It took a decade. But
yeah, it does take a long time. I told you, I still catch myself praying. I'm like, wait, that's not how I pray anymore. Like that's old behavior. So I think that that's just, it's constant work. So now that you're out of the Mormon Church and you have children and you have a new family, what is it? What do you practice? Where do you find your spirituality? And you said meditation, but is there anything specific? Do you follow, like, what meditations do you love? What practices, fitness practices do you find are really like, what am I trying to say?
Yeah. So like what am I teaching my kids? Like how to be spiritual? Like what are our practices?
Yeah.
So a joke at our house is always like, you need to get outside and get your feet in the grass. So something that I'm teaching my kids is exactly what you said, that it's about your relationship with yourself. So I really focus on teaching my kids how to talk positively about themselves and think positively about themselves. We definitely get outside as much as we can. Our church we do something every Sunday. So in the winter, we ski as a family together. In the summer, we boat or go. We are outside in nature every Sunday as a family. That's our church.
I love that.
And we give gratitude back to all of the beautiful things, whether we're at the beach and honoring like the ocean and how beautiful Mother Nature is, or if we're in our beautiful mountains here in Utah, just really realizing that our bodies, like when you look closely, our bodies replicate nature. And I'm trying to teach my kids how to feel connected to that and feel responsible to that. It's hard. My kids are 13 and my son turns 11 this month. And, the influence of the iPhone, the internet, social media, it's really hard to teach kids about self-worth when the world is built to tear them down.
And
And
I have the same issue in my house. I have a almost 14-year-old daughter and 11-year-old daughter.
oh yeah, so very
Or 10-year-old, sorry, 10.
Yeah, same ages. And so it's just teaching when we talk about God. So my daughter, she prays to Heavenly Father or God. My son doesn't believe in God, so he prays to the universe. My son believes that we all are God, that we're all collectively God. So when he speaks to universe, and I speak to higher power. And so it's interesting. And my husband, he's not as open yet. He was raised Mormon as well.
I was going to ask you
Yeah.
how did you meet your husband?
Oh, we had a very scandalous office romance.
Oh my God, I almost spit out my coffee. I had no idea. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's we had a very scandalous office romance. I was on my way out of Mormonism. He was going through a separation, very Mormon. He was a closeted, like he would closet drink, like he had kind of a double
By
life.
the way, there was sorry to cut you off. That's funny you mentioned that because I tell my partner all the time, I said, do you know how many people in the Mormon church that I knew that we would like go to Target and they were like, we would run into whoever it was from the church and they'd be outside smoking or so-and-so's drinking or cheating on their wife. It's like, people don't talk, but let's be honest. They're all human and we all fuck up. Let's be real. And like, there's beauty in imperfection. So that's very funny you say that because.
So he was like closeted.
Okay.
Right.
I didn't know where you were going with the closet. I was like,
okay. He's just, he was like closeted, like living a different lifestyle, like wanting the best of both worlds. And he found himself very conflicted. And, our getting together was very scandalous, which, I'm not proud of, but I also don't regret. Because like you said, people make choices and do things for many different reasons. And I really think that my husband and I met to get on the same path spiritually for our well-being. Like we kind of pulled each other out of that. But my husband now is just barely coming around to the fact that it may have all been bullshit.
That's hard
for him, not for, because I want to be respectful because we still have so many, like you said, I come from long lineage of Mormonism and so does he. So being respectful, like when I say it's BS for us personally, right? So he doesn't pray. I've never heard my husband pray.
Really?
Yeah. But my kids and I, we actively talk about, okay, do you want me to share a crazy story with you? I can't believe I'm going to share this publicly.
Okay, I would love to hear it.
Okay, I actually haven't. Yeah, I don't know if I've shared this on my podcast. I don't think I would have. But so a couple months ago, we went to a wedding and it's my husband's nephew, who, by the way, I was friends with before I was his aunt. So I was friends with him via my ex-husband.
Okay.
And he's now my nephew. Okay.
That's Utah for you.
Yep. So he got remarried and we were at his wedding, and it kind of crossed my mind that my ex would be there, but I didn't know if they were still friends. It's been like 14 years since I've gotten divorced. So I don't know. 15 years. Gosh, I don't even know anymore. And anyways, my daughter, she was like, let's go through the food line. And I had spotted my ex-husband. So I was like, let's just wait a minute. And she was like, well, I'm starving. Can you please come with me? I'm like, just go, babe. You're good. She's like, I don't know anyone here. And she stops and she looks at me and she looks over at the food line. She goes, is that your ex-husband? I'm like, how did you know that? She goes, I don't know. Cause she's never seen a photo of him. She doesn't even know his name. Like we don't talk about it. Okay. So she's like, I don't know, Mom. I just like felt it in every part of my body. And I just know, is that your ex-husband? I'm like, it is. And she's like, whoa, Mom. It was like the universe. It was like time stopped and the universe was spinning around me and all my parallel possible lives were like coming together at once. And she was like, can you imagine? She goes, Mom, you'd be here at this wedding regardless. You would have been at this point in time no matter what. And she goes, what if you were here with different kids? Dad would still be here with like his other like a different situation. So we're having this like parallel universe crazy, like
you're like, I have to sit down for a second.
Yeah. So then my son comes up and we bring him on it. And it was a really cool thing to just talk about how, coming back to what we believe as a family, what I'm teaching my kids is that every choice you make matters. And whether it's big or small, it has a ripple effect. And I love, like, you have butterflies behind it. It's like a butterfly effect. And so we're just sitting there just tripping out on the fact that I would have been at that place and time, possibly no matter what, or maybe not. Maybe I would have been on a different path, but the choices I made led me here. And now I have these 2 kids. And so it was like a cool, just universal law of be a good person, make good decisions.
Yeah,
And
that's wow. That I
yeah.
mean, what are the chances of that? And your daughter, she must be so in tune and so like it just shows you whatever you're teaching her to really trust herself. And for me as a mom, I'm trying to teach my kids to trust their instinct because that's where the truth lies. The
Uh-huh.
truth lies. Your brain is going to make up stories, tell you things that you don't want to hear, all sorts of crazy things. But your inside, your gut
Yes.
will not lie to you.
Yeah, and your gut will not lie to you. Your intuition is strong. And in religion, that they say it's the Holy Spirit or whatever it tells you, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I love that. It's like we know the truth.
My mom still calls me and I'm like, "Mom, you'll never believe what happened," because I have this, like, weird I don't wanna say psychic ability, I just have I'm really in tune with my intuition, and I can't really put words on it. But my mom will be like, "Oh, that's my" and by the way, my parents don't go to church, but my mom will still say things like, "Oh, that's the still small voice." Mom, shut up. No, it's not. That's
Yeah.
that's all the work that I've done on myself to, like,
Mhm.
deprogram and, like, really understand and listen to what my body is telling me.
Yep.
So, is there anything that you've taken away from the Mormon Church, that you still love, like, the foundational wise when it comes to the Mormon Church?
I think the value around family,
Mhm,
not the traditional family unit, but how important it is for me and my children, like really spending that time, that quality time. I mean,
mhm.
that's what I have taken away.
Yeah, I think for me, like, family home and evening, which for those of you who don't know, it's like a Monday night thing where you do an activity, right? I think the majority of the time, my mom would always have the missionaries come over and we would feed them. Um, but yeah, just finding those moments with your family, which we all need to, like, do. We are so distracted as our society and world and these
Yeah,
things, like,
I for
pulling the
sure.
family back together is the most important thing.
Yeah, so I think the value around family, and it's taken me about, 15, 16 years to get to where I am now of extending that to my siblings too, even siblings I'm not close to or no, don't see as often. It's do I believe that we are an eternal family and we're going to go live in different levels of heaven as the Mormon belief? No, but like our souls came together at this time on the earth. And so
Mhm.
just being respectful of that, it doesn't mean you have to like pour into it. I don't know. I'm having a hard time. But just that families aren't eternal, but our souls are eternal and we're all here
Mhm.
together on this earth. So
Mhm. And that's
yeah.
a beautiful thing. That's I mean, it's not it's just pivoting, and I feel like there's so many great things that we could implement. It's so funny. I just think in my head, like, when I say foundational things, I went straight to, like, casseroles. I don't make
Oh yeah.
casseroles, by the way. I don't even know how to make I don't even think I was attempting to make a casserole the other day, and I don't even have a casserole pan. So I was like, "Okay, I'm not making a casserole. We're not doing that." Which is another thing most people don't know about the Mormon Church is that they're really good at casseroles.
Yeah, and I would say service, like they
Service,
like
yeah.
the casserole makes me think of Relief Society of, funeral potatoes are a real thing. I don't know if you've had funeral potatoes lately, but I made
Have
some.
not I haven't.
It popped up on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and so I made some just for someone wanted me to make them,
Yeah, yeah.
potatoes. So casseroles, I mean, do you do food storage?
You know
Do you
what? I only did that during the pandemic when it was getting a little crazy in LA, and I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And I was like, "Maybe the Mormons were right. Maybe this is the day." And then because my sister still practices, I would, like, classify my family as Jack Mormons,
Okay.
but my sister's the most active, and she's, like, the president of the Young Women's in Nebraska. So, um, I do have, like, 5 bags of rice, and I'm, like, never cook rice, so I'm like, "Okay, well, if shit hits the fan, at least we have some rice to, like, go off of," but I don't do, like, the crazy overboard
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, like my mom has like a panic room and backpacks and all of it.
Oh.
Like my mom has 24-hour kit. Like she could go camp in the wilderness for a year.
But that's also kind of nice to know, like, okay, just in case, mom's got it covered.
Yeah. I'm like, I have all the wine, which you don't drink, but no, I try after the pandemic, I started buying, some canned food here and there, but
You end up not using it,
I
or
threw
you
ended up donating it all before it expired.
yeah.
I never used it, but yeah.
So let's talk about your jewelry line because I love this. It's so pretty, by the way, and I love that there's so much meaning behind it because that's such a flooded industry. I've also had my own jewelry line, and it just is like one of those things that you need to have purpose. So can you talk a little bit about your line?
Yeah, so Prism, I'm wearing a few of my pieces right now. Each piece is designed with a spiritual intention or meaning. So
Mm.
this sunray is my favorite. It's kind of our iconic piece. It focuses on activating your solar plexus chakra. That's really where your abundance mentality comes in, your self-worth, all of that. So it's beautiful jewelry, but it's really backed by an intention.
Mhm.
So, and I think that, we're talking about our spiritual rituals or our practices, having reminders are good. Like if you start the day with an intention and by wearing a piece of jewelry, it helps remind you of that. And it's beautiful jewelry as well. But right now it's jewelry. But really we want to move into like spiritual like courses and
Mm.
retreats and things like that. But yeah, Prism has been such a fun project, and it really was the product of me putting myself out there and being vulnerable and sharing with the world that, listen, I'm going through some stuff right now, working through some childhood trauma. I'm on this path of healing and spirituality journey, and Prism fell into my life, and it's been so amazing to that one, people love it, and two, to help people, that it means something
Mhm.
to people.
Yeah, it's when you could wake up in the morning and you can put on a piece of jewelry or throughout the day, and sometimes you unintentionally grab your jewelry, but then by grabbing it, it reminds you of what it represents and it grounds you. So I love
Mhm.
that. That's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and if you look back into history, people have always adorned themselves in some way.
Mhm.
Ancient tribes, ancient people would adorn their body, and it usually had a spiritual meaning. And so with Prism, it's kind of adorn your body at vibe higher. And we believe that when you heal yourself, you heal the world.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's crazy what just a little piece of jewelry can do for you.
Yeah.
And it helps on days like today where I have no blonde in my hair, my extensions are out. Like, I'm looking at myself and like, who is this very white person with dark hair?
Oh my gosh, you look
But I
beautiful.
have my
Stop.
jewelry on, so I feel put together.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
it's been really fun because I have a skincare company as well that I'm super
Okay.
passionate about. I've had that for 6 years, Wild Rose Beauty, but the jewelry has been a very fun way to express where I'm actively at in my life right now.
Mhm. I love that. And you also have a podcast.
Yes.
What do you want your listeners to take away from each episode when they listen?
Giving people different ideas to think about, to expand your thought process around a topic or a thing or a belief system.
I love
We
that.
do it. We bring in a lot of cool guests. Like we've had astrologers, spiritual healers, psychics, religious people, just all the things.
That's so fun.
Yeah. But what about yours? What do you like?
My
what do you want
podcast?
what do you want your listeners to take away?
For me, starting this podcast was really about taking the village that has really helped me because I could not get to where I was like without these people, whether they're spiritual leaders, whether they're doctors, whether they're friends of mine, or people that I just look up to, right? That are my mentors, and they don't know. So I've now created this platform as a way to like invite people into my home or on the podcast to talk about their journeys and how they're creating their happily ever after, because it all looks so differently, right? Like, especially growing up as a Mormon, you know, and this idea of like what Walt Disney created around our happily ever afters and what we learned from these Disney movies that shaped our lives. These are, you know, my 7-year-old little self. And then you go through very traumatic experiences and you wake up and you're just like, how the heck did I get here? Like, can I please hit rewind and start all over? Because this is like, I don't even know how am I here? Right. And how did I let other people influence me, and why did I stay for so long, and why did I make the choices that I did? And then you kind of beat yourself up. And so I really had to change my life that way. And I realized that like everyone's happily ever after is very different. It's very different. It doesn't matter what background, ethnicity, whether you're gay, straight, transgender, it doesn't matter. Like, I just want people to be happy, because like you said, like when people are happy, we're going to have a better world. And like, we're all energy and we all feed off of each other. And I think that this year, I'm hoping that the world really like takes upon each individual home and community and heal themselves, because there's so much healing, and not get stuck in the trauma, right? We all seem to love to sit in the trauma and drama.
Well, because it's sticky energy. It keeps you there.
So for me, I want to be able to help people. I also have a child. My oldest daughter is neurodivergent and she has severe learning disabilities. And that's another aspect of my life where, not to take away from her story, but raising her and dealing with doctors and therapists and co-parenting and truly understanding how to help my child she's also been a big motivation for this podcast. And she did an episode with me, and I'm hoping that I want her to be able to embrace who she is, being neurodivergent, right? And saying, you know what? I might not ever learn my multiplications, and that's okay. That's not going to be my path in this life. And I want to share that with other people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Because I think that everyone needs to realize what their gifts are. Everyone has a unique set of gifts to share with the world. And so I love the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And your daughter's so lucky to have you as a mom.
Thank you.
And before we go, because I'm a fan of a lot of your work, so what is your favorite role that you've played?
Oh my gosh. Okay, 2 immediately popped into my head. I was in a movie called The Master. Paul Thomas Anderson directed it. It was with Joaquin Phoenix, Amy Adams, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I played Philip Seymour Hoffman's daughter. That was a huge pivotal moment in my acting career, and I learned so much being on that set. Another really fun role, and I love doing period pieces. Like, if I could do period pieces from here on out, I totally would. I just love diving into history. Another great role that I had so much fun was Ray Donovan.
Yeah.
I was just like crazy and wild and like sexual and like just working with great people. So
yeah, I love Ray Donovan. That was a good role.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really good. Well, thank you for coming on, and you have a beautiful family, and thank you for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you for having me on, and thank you for sharing your story with me too. What a great episode. I've always been a fan of Ambyr's, and I love all of the work that she's done, especially on Netflix. It's one of my favorite roles that she has played. But wow, I was blown away by today's conversation. I didn't realize how much we truly have in common. She is an amazing person, amazing mother. And I just want to thank you all for listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe and tune in next week. Until next time, be you, stay wild.
Yay Networks.